Hello and welcome again to the Ryder Review. This is Eric Ryder, and this week we're going to be taking a look back at the 1997 sci-fi horror action film titled Alien Resurrection. Now, Alien Resurrection runs for 1 hour and 49 minutes long. It is directed by Jean-Pierre Jeunet and Danny Boyle. It is produced by Gordon Carroll, David Giler, Walter Hill, and Bill Badolato. The script was written by Joss Whedon, and it is based on the characters by Dan O'Bannon and Ronald Shusett. The score was done by John Frizzle, the cinematography by Darius Konji, and the editing was done by Hervé Schneid. And the stars of the movie are Sigourney Weaver, Winona Ryder, Ron Perlman, Dan Hedaya, J.E. Freeman, Brad Dourif, and Michael Wincott. Well, like every continuation of a movie series, Alien Resurrection has the instincts of a child who has a fit after their parents took their favorite toy away. The sketchy, slimy alien creatures and the dark claustrophobic scenarios are curiously provocative. However, the story fails to deliver even through the hardest effort in adding a new twist in the franchise. The film itself has the right material for newly inventive ways to make the series fresh, but it never tugs at your emotions, and the impact falls flatter than diluted soda. In fact, I was surprised. I was actually more surprised at just how fuzzy Dan Hayata is. And he's not even the main attraction here. He's not even an alien. He's General Perez. But he's got enough fuzz on his chest to pass off as a cardigan sweater. I mean, he's that fucking hairy. Okay, I'm not here to put Dan Hedaya down. He's always a good, intense actor with those piercing eyes. And even though he is Ashkenazi Jewish of Syrian extraction, he actually seems to be quite good at playing Italian mob bosses. But my God, the guy looked like he was rubbing super glue on Don King's scalp. Okay, enough of that. Sure, fans of the series had come into the theaters in drones, and yeah, okay, it did do quite well in the box office. And after seeing such a crappy movie like Batman and Robin, I was actually much more pleased with Alien Resurrection. At least I can say that this was a blockbuster movie, a popcorn movie that was at least to some extent passable in terms of enjoyment. But still, it was highly doubtful if its welcome was long termed. So, yeah, okay, it had its flaws. It had basically the surprise factor was kind of deteriorating, but it was still an enjoyable action flick. If you think that in terms of the effects, the horror effects, and the evolving from puppetry to CGI was still pretty much in its infancy. CGI was still in its infancy, but it was kind of scary that it was starting to creep up there. So Sigourney Weaver is once again back, this time for the fourth time, returning from the dead, well, as a clone, 200 years as a hybrid human alien version of Ellen Ripley. But she is still just as tough as ever, battling those slimy aliens that she's been doing since 1979. Sure, she's a little older, sure, she's a little long in the face, but she is still just as much of a badass as she was in the first Alien movie. She was just as action oriented as in the second one. The third one, I really couldn't recommend this one that much, but at least the fourth one got it right. But it was still far better than Batman and Robin. Come on, that movie was shit. At least Alien Resurrection made me come back to appreciate the action genre. So it's no surprise that Sigourney Weaver is in her comfort zone, and she still looks buff and sexy and boss for a person who is now pushing her late 40s. Well, actually, if you count today, she's actually 67. But back in 1997, she was in her late 40s. And when she did that basketball shot in that scene, by God, I think she's about the only person who could actually get away with doing that. She is really that dynamic. So as the franchise continues, the alien creatures continue to get more awkward through each time. But the looks still have some originality with each time frame, and this movie, the aliens depicted here stand out pretty much above the rest. You could agree with me, you could disagree with me. I actually didn't mind the advancement in the design of the aliens in this movie. The inspiration for the alien creation definitely comes from director Jean-Pierre Jeunet, who got the horrific physicality of the creatures from his previous outings like Delicatessen and the always inviting The City of Lost Children. The horrific characteristics of this film blends nicely to the dark settings and the heavy metal and the disgusting manifestation coming out of the creature's vials, along with an exciting underwater scene, along with the fear and the loss of humanity, are just some of the spectacular idiosyncrasies from Junot's warped mind. Plus, he brought his favorite actors in, including Ron Perlman as a heavy-hitting antagonist, and Dominique Pinon for some much-needed comic relief. One of the newer characters added to this movie is the introduction of Winona Ryder's character, who goes by the name of Call. She was a nice new added attraction to this series. She is an engineer who is aboard the spaceship Auriga, which is the centerpiece to where all the fun takes place. Unfortunately, 12 sniveling aliens are heading to Earth, planning to conduct evil biological experiments to the civilians. Don't say I didn't warn you. So Ryder arrives on the scene with a raging group of smugglers. She kind of sort of seems a bit out of place with the kind of cynical, barbaric individuals that make up the population in this franchise. Her chocolate brown eyes and her deadpan dramatic expressions has that token bright light for what has been a dark and dreary journey so far. Finally, we could say that this movie has a character with a small dosage of humanity. Maybe she might seem a bit out of place, and a lot of people thought that she was too stoic and just didn't feel like in place with the other characters. But I thought she was quite effective. I mean, in a science fiction movie to work, we could actually use a little bit of some dramatization. It doesn't have to be just kicking alien butt. We could have some dramatic integrity pulled into the script, and it's a nice added twist. If there was a twist, I mean, the first Alien movie set the tone as Ripley had to battle this one evil being in Aliens. She has to go into full action mode because there was like hundreds of them roaming around. And in the third one, she had to kind of sacrifice her own life to go after a whole bunch of aliens at the risk of costing her own life and losing people who she truly cares about. You know, in this movie, you don't really have many characters you truly care about because most of them are despicable. Now, I know there's a lot of naysayers out there who also said that this movie seemed to sort of fell into typical 90s action movies, you know, the stuff that the Schwarzeneggers and the Steven Seagals and the Jean-Claude Van Dammes and even wrestlers who got into the action movie scenarios like Rowdy Piper and Hulk Hogan, that they all seem to have to depend on cheesy, sardonic humor. And you know what? That's okay. I actually love a little bit of humor in in a in an action movie. It just makes the hours go by fast. I mean, why so serious? Sure, I love to see a good kick-ass movie. I love to see a few odd one-liners there. The other three Alien movies were just way too serious. Here, at least, you know, when you have some kick-ass action to go, it's good to throw a little bit of humor in here and there. Maybe it might have been a little over the top, but that's okay. At least it wasn't retarded like Batman and Robin. Or it wasn't as cheesy as the 1998 Godzilla. But at least in Alien Resurrection, it was, you know, still cheesy, but at least it was toned down. Because our focus was not on the humor, it was mostly just based off of Ripley going out there and kicking the tar out of a bunch of slimy, gooey aliens. And yes, the aliens here in this movie are kind of depicted a little bit different, being the fact that they're more emotional rather than rather than rather than just stupidity. I mean, there was no stupidity in this movie. I mean, maybe some of the one-liners were dumb, and maybe there were some characters who were more annoying than the others. But if you could just ignore that and concentrate on the action, this movie has it all. Has what is to offer. We're not expecting Shakespeare here, folks. None of the other Alien movies were Shakespearean. And sure, the alien hybrids in this movie seem to have a little more facial expressions here. They can smile, they can cry, and, you know, I guess you could say when Ripley had to kill the newborn, it was a little bit heartbreaking. But hey, maybe this newborn will end up to grow up to be just as much of an evildoer as all the other aliens from before. So maybe in the end, her killing off the newborn in the end was beneficial. But when you think about it, you know, it was still fun to watch on the long run. You know, the technological stuff in this movie was really, really impressive. Sure, it's all just a matter of style versus substance, but there was substance in this movie. There was a lot of action. And though the other Alien movies seem to rest in the 2 hour plus area, Alien Resurrection actually only runs for an hour and 49 minutes. But that's good. Sometimes, you know what? Less is more. More story, more story to be added in with little time, and at least, it gets the point across. Maybe in the long run, maybe a lot of the other Alien movies should not have been 2 hours long. Maybe it would have been best if it would have stayed at an hour and 45 minutes, all three of the other Alien movies. It's still sci fi, it's still horror. And usually horror movies should not run for 2 hours at the most. They should run for something like an hour and 45 minutes or so. So I actually give praise that they did shorten this movie because it gets the point across. And you know what? The main characteristic in this movie is mean. Mean is the focal characteristics in this film, and the violence renders no apologies about it. We are treated to a delightful opening scene where we get an up close look at some performing open chest surgery with barf inducing detail with Brad Dourif as the Mad Doctor. Yes, the same Brad Dourif, Mr. Chucky himself, Mr. Charles Lee Ray. Only this time he is a mad scientist and not a doll. So don't think about this. I mean, he was quite convincing. Yes, he was over the top. Yes, you still just can't think of Chucky the doll here, but here he actually performed pretty well here. He's actually pretty versatile if you ask me. He was in the movie One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and he was actually an Oscar nominated performer in the category Best Supporting Actor in his film debut back in 1975. So, he's not just a one dimensional, he's not a one trick pony. Of course, everybody will only remember him as serial killer Charles Lee Ray, who got himself possessed in the body of a doll, and all the other slasher movies crap that he was in. But, you have to admit that the guy has done other things besides Chucky. And here, you know, he actually was pretty good in this role. It was supporting, it was over the top, but it was effective. And to see him perform open heart surgery to an alien, hey, what do you expect? This isn't Shakespeare, this isn't Hemingway, this isn't Tennessee Williams here. We're seeing an action film, and you just have to accept the fact that you are watching an action movie. And I think it was a really heart-rendering op- opening scene. We also get some insightful information about predatory subjects very few people talk about, like predatory alien sex. Yeah, viewer discretion advised truly makes its mark here, folks. Granted, the film, does have creative vibes going for it, so there's no need to get through the plot details, no matter how narrow it is. The thick of it all is that this film depends too much on the visuals and not so much emphasis based on the story. But then again, the other Alien movies had a narrow, thin plot. There was really no need for it. It was meant to be an action film, and it was meant to carry on as a series. And it has actually done its time. Has it run its course? I certainly hope not. Of course not. I mean, in 2012, we had the movie called Prometheus, and coming soon this year to a theater near you, I want you to check out Alien Covenant. I don't know whether it's, I don't remember if it's a prequel to the Alien franchise or a sequel to the Alien franchise. Since, but I do think that if Alien Covenant does well in the theaters, I think we are all in for a very special treat. We also get fragments of a story that Ripley returned from the dead after 200 years, and her alien child has come back as well, and she's on the hunt to slay these hideous evil creatures. The aliens are still the same gross, slimy creatures as we've seen before, only now they're populating. And like every splatterfest that has crept up the movie theaters since our creative minds seems to be somewhat obsessed with the surreal, well, this movie has it all. This splatterfest in the movies, the aliens get to dine on such delicious cuisines like guts, severed heads, and yummy brains. We also get some insightful information about these aliens. That they are actually able to reproduce with humans, and thus we have the arrival of a half human, half alien hybrid called the Newborn, who seems to generate some human emotions. It could smile, it could cry, it could possibly even communicate with people. Maybe not through words or language, but through emotions. And when they had to put the baby down, it was a bit heart rendering. But you don't know what the capabilities the newborn could do as it gets older. It could end up doing the same thing like all the other aliens from before. So, yeah, it was sad to see it go because it was a baby. But at least we got to realize that, that we saw something original, or kind of a new twist to the series. In the span of 5 years since the last Alien film back in 1992, the special effects have truly come a long way. The transformation from archaic puppetry to the more advanced use of CGI has created a new, but not entirely for the better way of upgrading the franchise. The puppetry was spotted more realism than compared to the CGI green screening that all these lazy hacks have done over the past few years, which could sometimes be for good, and then a lot of times it's not always for the better. Plus, these new batch of aliens possess a more humanoid look to them as they can display emotions, and it gives you something to sort of think about. But not too much because, hey, it's still science fiction. There's going to be surrealism. And hey, what can I say? The action was very good. It wasn't character driven, but then again, it's an alien movie. There really is. It's an action film, so there really wasn't that much room for character development. But all in all, it was great. It was a great movie. Um, you'll either like the movie or you won't like the movie. And you know what? But you know what? That freedom of that freedom of your own interpretations is all the more liberating to you. If you didn't like the movie, the more power to you. If you did like the movie, if you did like the movie, I'm glad you agree with me. But we all think differently, and I just want to let you know that Just because I might be on the other end of the or for all those who didn't like the movie doesn't mean I don't respect your opinion. So, and hopefully one of these days I'll come by to your sites to visit, and I would love to give my opinion and my comments in your comment section on your YouTube page. I will, praise everyone's reviews, whether I agree with you or disagree with you, and I don't want any kind of offense taken if you disagree with me or if I disagree with you, because in the end, we all have opinions. My opinion, my opinion deserves respect every bit as much as your opinions deserve respect too. If I was to give this scale, if I was to give Alien Resurrection a scale out of 10, I would give Alien Resurrection a 7.5. So I guess this ends my Ryder review. Thank you all for listening in. If you wish to subscribe to my channel, please feel free to do so. If you wish to leave a comment, go right ahead. Just remember, be kind, be courteous, and don't be rude. And I will be back again with another movie review. So until next time, this is Eric Ryder saying, keep watching those movies, and I'll see you around. Goodbye.